you again to the witnesses for being here. I read all of your testimony, and I appreciate the time and the effort that you put into it and the information that we were able to get from your testimony. Sheriff Daniels, we got a briefing from you this morning, and in your testimony you talked about the $9.4 million. But you had another stat that you didn't say today, but you said this morning that wasn't in your testimony about nationwide. I believe you said $500 million of costs have been incurred by local law enforcement because of the failure to secure the border. Could you elaborate on that?
I can. It's called SCAPS, or SCAPS State Criminal Alien Assistance Program, which is money allocated by the federal government, you all, Congress. That's to help local and state jurisdictions offset costs for those that are incarcerated that are illegally in the country. Since 2009, Arizona, the 15 Arizona sheriffs are owed over $500 million by you all, and we'd like to have our money. But I'm just, we get about 5 cents to the dollar on SCAP right now, which has been ineffective to house, especially in a crisis over the last 3 years. Thanks to the state of Arizona and the two governors I mentioned, Governor Ducey and Governor Hobbs, and the money we've set aside for our programs, they're helping us offset those costs that otherwise my citizens here in Cochise County would have absorbed.
And Mr. Del Cueto, as I mentioned, been a few years back, I made my first trip to the Arizona border. I saw we did spent a lot of time out on the ground. I saw the piles of trash, the camouflage clothes, the carpet-covered shoes, the backpacks, the water bottles, all the trash that was discarded. And I saw firsthand how the people coming across the border were avoiding Customs and Border Patrol, that they had lookouts out in the mountains radioing down. I've visited many other places along the border. In Texas, it's a whole different story. You see people in plain clothes walking up, and it's almost like they finished the marathon when they see the Border Patrol agent. That's who they're looking for. They want to turn themselves in and claim asylum. So with everything that's happened with the mass numbers in Texas, it appears that's where all the crossings are happening. But on our visit this morning, your colleague told us that in 2020, there were 60,000 apprehensions in the Tucson sector. Today, there's 10 times more than that. I was shocked to learn that, even with more wall being built, more access along the border, and these are people that are trying to avoid getting caught that come across this sector. What do you think's caused the increase here, and why is that not being focused on more than the masses that are crossing in Texas? And it should be. It's a tragedy everywhere it's happening.
So it's the lack of consequences from this administration. They realize that if they cross, they just have to claim asylum and they get released. So what's been happening in Arizona is you're still having the large groups that are coming through here, and they're in more remote areas. So the drive from when agents arrest these individuals to an area of processing is sometimes well over 1 hour or 2 hours away. And I think that's some of the issues. So that's 2 hours where the agent is now away from the line. That allows the drug smugglers to start bringing their drugs and everything else into the country. Realistically, you're seeing a lot more focus in Texas because the governor in Texas has done a fantastic job of allowing the media and allowing having other law enforcement in those areas that are able to talk about it and see what the problem is. Out here in Arizona, it's been a little bit harder for individuals to see what is happening, and I can tell you specifically, I think it's approximately right over 60 linear miles with Mexico. And it's very limited access to media or anyone else to go out there. As an example, when you are seeing, the mass groups that were coming in Texas or in areas of Lukeville, at the same time, that area, particularly an area called the San Miguel Gate, was experiencing over 1,000 individuals that were entering every single morning, and all they had in that area was 2 agents to watch over 1,000 people.
Thank you. Mayor, I was shocked in your testimony. You're the mayor. You grew up here, and you've actually advised your family to stay off the main thoroughfares. We're almost out of time, but I can only imagine what it's like if you used to recreate on the federal lands here, how much of a discouragement it would be to use the public lands. And to our ranchers and farmers, thank you for what you do. Much of what our committee works on deals with rural America. I'll leave you with a quote by a famous writer named Aldo Leopold. He said there are two great spiritual dangers of not living on a farm. The first is when you think food comes from the grocery, and the second is when you think heat comes from the furnace. I know it's hard to get young people to go into farming today, into ranching, and it makes it exponentially more difficult when you're in an area dealing with the things you're dealing with the border crisis. So thank you, and I yield back.